For my project, I chose to use the topic of figure skating since I myself am a pre-med student and a figure skater, and I chose to create a brochure or a platform that could explain the science of why the sport works and how it works. So recently, there's been a lot of debate in the figure skating world about the maximum limit of jumps, as a lot of new skaters emerged on the scene this year who were very young, who were performing quadruple jumps, very sophisticated jumps that no one else had previously done. And this has raised a lot of ethical questions about the limits of the sport and about the negative long-term effects that these could have on younger female athletes repeatedly training these difficult and forceful jumps. So, using my background, I've come to notice that having a background in physics and having taken that class has helped me understand things that my coaches tell me, and I don't necessarily know if they know all of the science of why the techniques they teach work. So I decided to create something that could kind of put it all together and distribute that to coaches and local ice rinks as a way to kind of spread my understanding of the sport and of the science that goes into it. And maybe that could help answer some of the questions and debates that have been coming up this year. So the first part of my project involved doing research online and conducting interviews with my coaches to understand what they know, to understand what they find is difficult to explain or things that they think are maybe not well understood in the figure skating world. And I did some research on the internet as well to look up, what's already out there about the science of figure skating and what's not out there and kind of see how it was presented. So I found a lot of information about injury prevention that seemed to be a very big concern and common topic among the internet, but there was not as much on just how figure skating worked or even just plain like gliding across the ice, how those things worked. And I find those things important in helping myself train and know like where to put my energy and focus it. So after conducting those preliminary studies and interviewing my coaches, I then started working on this brochure while at the same time I interviewed Dr. Clay Peterson from the Department of Health and Human Physiology at the University of Iowa. And Dr. Peterson teaches lots of classes on biomechanics and exercise physiology, and exercise science is kind of his area of expertise. So I used the questions and information that I got from coaches, like how to explain to skaters why they're dizzy or how to not get dizzy. Those things sort of just happen and they don't have a way to explain why it doesn't go away. They just tell them you'll get used to it later on. So I took those questions and information that I gathered from my internet search and I talked to Dr. Peterson about them. As I did that, I collected some notes that I wrote down for information that I couldn't add to the brochure, add using some other outlet. Afterwards, I went back and finalized my brochure, and just as I was getting ready to distribute it, print and distribute around World Championship time in mid to end of March, World Championships were actually canceled due to the coronavirus pandemic. And this is only about the second time in the past decade or no, in the past 50 years that they've been canceled. So following that, most of the rinks that I was planning to distribute my brochure also decided to shut down. So I chose to instead keep this electronic format that had all of my information in it and send it out this way temporarily until I can get into ice rinks later and print and distribute this. And that was also my mechanism for assessing the impact of my project, was seeing how many brochures were actually taken up. So to add to my project while I was at home, I created this blog post that has some information from my brochure, and I further described some of it, and then I also added sections on some off-ice training, like how stretching works, why strength and endurance help us, more information about dizziness and how that works, and use this kind of larger format to put in more information, and specifically information that's related to off-ice training, since literally all the skaters in the world were training from their homes and not on the ice anymore. So I learned a lot about how to use these digital platforms, how to use Adobe InDesign, and how to just conduct interviews and the research process that goes into this. And I hope that soon all the rinks will be open again and I'll be able to get this brochure printed and see what it looks like, and then hopefully be able to distribute it and see how many people I can actually reach with this, and how many people I can reach with my electronic products as well.